What's going on, reefers? Blaine here. In today's video, we're going to be continuing our tank tour series. You all seem to love the tank tours, so today we're going to head out to Christmas, Florida and check out what I would like to call a truly mixed reef. Let's see all the bells and whistles, how they run their system, and dive in. All right, reefers, we are here with Ella and Darius. I'm very excited about this tank tour today. We're at an absolutely amazing house, and as you can see, an absolutely beautiful tank. This is gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna break down how they got into the hobby, talking about the tank itself, but first wanna say thank you so much to you guys for letting me come by.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and so we'll go ahead and start off with, how did you guys get into the hobby? How did you guys kind of start keeping fish tanks in general?
Well, it started with me when I was 7. I was in Poland. We were from Poland originally. I got about 15 liters, which is, I don't know how many, little itty bitty tank, and I had a few guppies and a swordtail. And the swordtail jumped out first day and died, but that's how I started.
Gotcha.
I had fish since then, mostly freshwater fish. We tried saltwater one time for about 6 months. It didn't work out. We went to breed discuses in the same tank. We had pretty good success with that, but then after this, we turned into salt water, and we had the salt water. We have it for what, 3 years now, approximately, or about 3 years.
Gotcha. So 3 years now, and how old is this tank that we're seeing here?
This tank is 1 year old, approximately 1 year old, maybe a little bit older.
And this was a custom build from Derek?
Yes, Derek built this tank, top shelf. Got us in contact with Derek, and then of course they installed everything else.
Right. What's the size of the system? How many gallons or how many liters? We can always change that up for us here.
Now this is 380 gallons,
okay.
Between 380 390. It's 96 long, 26 deep, and about 30 high.
I really like the height of the tank. I think a lot of people kind of forget the fact that
you have to
fish,
work.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to get down there and work. But I think a lot of the time people don't understand the space and the volume for fish is really good for them to have that open area to swim. Obviously, you guys have some bigger tanks. You have the tilefish. You have a variety of anthias, damselfish. They're gonna enjoy that larger space to swim for sure. What was the main goal when you guys were setting it up? Was there anything in mind in particular? Did you want to do soft corals mainly, LPS? What was the goal you guys wanted to do with this system?
Well, we started with soft corals because practically they're the easiest to keep, and we just started adding as we learned how to keep salt water, how to not let them die. We started adding some other corals, went to hard corals, but we still like everything, not only hard corals or soft corals. Even we love this anemone over here. I mean, just all kinds of different species.
I think the tank is a great example of, we were talking about it earlier, the mixed reef idea, right? Sometimes people get this idea in their minds that you can only keep soft corals together, or softies and LPS, or your SPS dominant only. You guys have done a really good job at creating a truly mixed reef, obviously with your anemone, your LPS, you've got, the GSP growing on the back wall. You guys have it all really in this tank. Let's talk a little bit about the fish you guys are keeping. I know you guys have a couple fish you've had for quite some time. What kind of fish do you have in here in general? What was the idea in mind when you guys were choosing out your fish selection?
Well, with fish, of course, it's the way they look. I mean, we like all the fish that we have, but like the copper band, I mean, we had, at one point, we got aptasia from someone, and we got him just to get rid of aptasia, and it worked beautifully. I mean, there's not one in the tank. There's cleared everything beautifully. Same thing with rosses. We keep rosses to keep at bay anything that could be in the tank. It's parasite free, but still, we keep them just to protect the tank, as well as, of course, for the looks.
Absolutely. You guys more fond on the idea of doing a more natural kind of cleanup in a way, right? You have all these different ways where we can get rid of pests nowadays, right? But I think the natural remedies is almost better, right? Having the wrasses, having the copper band, and if they're able to, make themselves a novel citizen in your tank as well, then they have a purpose and they also look great too.
Right, we got Harlequin shrimp. That's why I don't get rid of all the stars, because I mean they eat them. So
Right.
I keep it at bay, just pulling few of them off if they grow too big or whatever. But other than that, I'm not worrying about it because they got food all the time. So.
What are you doing for feeding the fish? What's your guys' kind of feeding regimen?
Feeding, I have automatic feeder, so they get in the morning, they get like the veggie pellets and just regular pellets and some powder for corals, missy shrimp and a little bit of brine shrimp even I mix in, and then twice a week, that's for fish, but then twice a week I feed corals with just a whole bunch of different powders and liquids. So.
He also makes his own food. So he goes and gets a whole bunch of different shrimp.
Yeah, just squid, shrimp, tuna, a whole bunch of different liquids, powders, and just put it in a mixer and then freeze it and then you just
break it off as you go. Okay. We were talking about it earlier. You guys obviously travel a lot for work and things like that. It's not super easy taking care of a system, right, when you're out and traveling and doing your things, right? If you're gone away from the tank, I know for me personally, when I was traveling a lot for work, it was always a high stress level. But you guys, we've talked about it earlier off camera. You guys have done so many things to kind of help yourself, give you that peace of mind when you're gone away. Let's talk a little bit about the fridge you have up top that I originally thought was a speaker system. Let's talk a little bit about that and how you're using it when you're traveling.
So the fridge has a little pump in it, and as well as it has a mixer, just like you guys use mixer to test water with the little magnet on the bottom. And I just put small missies and other wet foods, fill it with water, and so they have it for maybe 3 or 4 days. It has to be refilled after about 3 days, but it's automatic wet food feeder, mostly because of copperband. Other fish, I mean, they can stay with dry food. We got dry food feeder, but this is like an extra for the copperband.
Gotcha. And then what are you dosing any additives or any supplements throughout the tank? What are you dosing currently?
A and B, of course, but
Coral system.
for the coral system, yeah.
Coral
so
system.
you got
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
And once a week, and you use 5 milliliters for 25 gallons, which means 80 milliliters. And
You've been keeping tanks for a long time. You guys have been around the hobby. The hobby has changed drastically, right? There's so many alterations we've talked about. We both ran, T5s metal halides. What are we doing for equipment up top? Are we running LEDs? And then what are we doing for automation? I'm guessing you guys have a Neptune system that we put in for you guys. What are you guys using for equipment in the tank?
So we have, I can show you, we have Radians.
XR15s and XR30.
Right, we got 3 15s and 4 30s, as well as the strip light, the Reef Bright.
For the systems, we are using Neptune, the Apex, as well as the Trident.
When I'm home, all the feeders are shut off because I like to feed.
Right, you like to be involved with it and do the feeding yourself, right? And then the sump down below, how big is the sump space down below?
There's 150 gallons sump.
Big skimmer for sure.
Big skimmer and mats. Those are so easy to use.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely one big addition into the hobby as of late. I think, we always utilized filter floss for a long time and it's done its job really well. I think the addition to roller mats into the hobby has kind of taken that next step, but I think the roller mat themselves has kind of changed the game. It helps people keep their water super crystal clear, and you don't have to get underneath there every single day and pull out dirty filter floss, which is always really nice, right?
The best thing ever. I can change it myself and I don't need anybody to help me, and even if I'm home by myself, I can just change it, and you can hear when something is not going right because you hear the beep. So,
staying on the same topic, maintenance, so you're just talking about how you will swap those out. What's your maintenance schedule for the system? Or is there much maintenance for the system, right?
There is not much. I mean, water changes, we don't really do water changes, very seldom. I mean,
you were saying you originally were doing an automatic water change system, right?
Right, there is automatic water change system which is not being in use. All the mechanical things in the tank are doing their job pretty well. I mean, I can't keep nitrates high enough. all this grows like this practically without water changes. I mean, we do it maybe once every couple months, 20%, that's it. Of course, I check phosphates and nitrates probably every 3 days.
Okay.
Also, we're running the ATI tests on the once. I try to do it once every month and a half.
Okay. So doing your ICP tests, right? So I think a lot of people sometimes they'll do their tests at home, right? And they'll do their major elements, right? Like we were talking about the calcium, the phosphates, the nitrates, alkalinity, but they'll forget about some of the smaller, minute little elements that need to be added in, those trace elements. I think you guys are doing a really good job and a good process of trying to do it every single month, so that way you can kind of revisit and see where your numbers are at. We are constantly sending in ICP tests over at Top Shelf. I mean, we're doing it pretty much every week. We're sending off more tests. And so I always like to preach to people at home that if you're trying to really pinpoint a problem, an ICP test is a great way to kind of start out to really get the numbers and see what you're kind of lacking in a tank.
Definitely, it's a must if somebody wants to keep, especially so many different species, you have to do it.
Are you guys running any carbon on the system at all? With it being a big mixed reef, do you see any chemical warfare going on with the corals, anything of that sort? And what are you doing to try to mitigate
I have a carbon bag.
How long are you guys running your lights? What's the light schedule? How long do those lights run for?
Practically at 5 o'clock in the morning, just a strip light comes on. About 8 o'clock, other lights come on, and it goes, ramps up until about 4 o'clock. It starts ramping down, and at about 6 o'clock, again, the strip light turns on until about 10. So practically more than 12, about 16 hours. But most of it is the strip light in the morning and in the evening.
And you guys have obviously so many different styles of fish, so many different sizes as well. So it's good to, like you were saying, mix it up and get all the different sized of foods, so that way everything's getting a chance to eat. So the copper band you guys have mentioned, what is some of your favorite fish in the system other than the copper band that you have?
Well, when I feed corals, my least favorite is that big tank, because it's always chasing after all the food. But no, all the fish, I mean, every single one of them is stunning, you know, just beautiful. Starting with, you know, clownfish that house in this big old anemone to even to
I love Entias. Entias are very, very majestic. So they just go in the group, and you can see them, you know, they have different colors. And as much as I love the copper band, because of course he's just an iconic fish for the aquarium, and I wish, you know, they would survive better in the aquariums, but knock on the wood, we haven't had any problems with him.
Having a good group of shoaling species is always a really good way to add some good movement to a tank. I think you guys are also making a good point that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of these shoaling species sometimes will go after each other and pick each other off, like the green chromis. But if you have multiple species of shoaling fish, you actually will have better success in keeping a lot of them shoaling together. I see the lyre tails here, these anthias here. Did you guys buy them all as females originally?
Yeah, no, there was one male.
One male, okay.
4 females. Then they started fighting with one of them, and the male just kind of like withered away, and
one has started to transition
turned into male. So.
Yeah, I've seen the one over there that's slowly making its transition. You guys have the angelfish, you have a beautiful pair of tilefish, and it seems like a lot of the fish in your system actually are starting to pair off. You guys have a lot of what we were talking about, a lot of breeding activity happening in the tank. We saw earlier with the azure damsels that they're going in there and they're starting to make a little nest, and you have the clownfish as well that are breeding.
I think tilefish had eggs, but at one point there was a tube sticking from one of them, and another one was hitting it. Something was going on, then fish started eating stuff. I don't know, but that's what I thought.
That's always a good telltale sign that a system's doing well, right? If you're getting breeding activity. I know you mentioned earlier that the GSP also was doing some self-reproduction in the tank too. That's a great sign that a system's going in the right direction. When we're talking about, you know, the system itself, what are you guys shooting for parameter-wise? What are the kind of numbers you're shooting for? I know we kind of preach at Top Shelf Aquatics that you don't want to just pick a number and kind of go for it. You want to kind of go for the stability, right, of the system. If you kind of chase numbers, sometimes you forget. And if you're able to kind of just make things stable, it's the best option. But if you guys have a certain number set you're looking for, what are you guys trying to achieve?
Well, on calcium, just like always, about 430. Magnesium between 1350 and 1450, you know. And then alkalinity between 8.3 and 8.5. I was trying to get at 9, but I think 9 is a little bit too high. I don't know, 8.3 to 8.5.
For this type of tank, I think 8.5 is like
the cutoff.
Right. With phosphates, no more than 0.1. And with nitrates, I have it too low. I have it at 8, like 8.2. It should be between 15 and 20 from what I'm seeing, because some mushrooms, they're not as good as they would be with a little bit higher nitrates, and all the other corals would still do good because I had higher nitrates and they were still good. So
I have to say that big thanks to Kevin, who created our beautiful scape. So it was custom made by him when we built the tank, which I absolutely love. So
and of course, I added a whole bunch of things because
needed more space,
I
right?
always yes.
Kevin is a wizard when it comes to rockscapes. He makes absolutely crazy stuff. If you guys are looking for custom rock work, as she just mentioned, he makes absolutely amazing things. He really does create these scapes that are out of this world, in my opinion. We recently set up a Red Sea reefer in the studio, and he's created this dynamic, what I would like to say, a DNA splice kind of style of, rockscape. It's so intricate and it intertwines with itself. You have the hood, so obviously no big issues with the tilefish jumping.
They're jumping all the time.
I'm sure.
Anthias usually chase after one of them, and it just jumps out, and you hear, and then
back into the tank.
Back in the water. So yeah.
Do you know how many fish you currently have in the system? A rough guess?
I have no idea. Probably maybe 30.
30, 40 fish roughly. What's the oldest fish you have in the tank? Is it the purple tang that we were talking about earlier? This guy right here up front?
I think
maybe the orange shoulder.
Yes, orange shoulder. I think that's the oldest, biggest and oldest.
Is one of the oldest ones that we've had.
You guys have a lot of amazing corals. The fish are beautiful. The tank looks absolutely amazing. I would like to ask, Jake Adams back from Reef Builders, he used to ask every individual person that he'd come and visit at their tank, what's the best, piece of advice you would give a new reefer or any reefer? So I'll ask both of you, but if you were talking to someone that's just getting into the hobby or someone that's looking for some guidance, what are some of the tips and tricks that you would give to a new reefer?
Well, first of all, be patient. That's the first thing, and I think everybody says that. Be patient. And don't get discouraged if, unfortunately, the fish will die, the coral will die. And, if you are willing to sacrifice, because I don't like if anything dies, we have animals in the house, so this is like our...
These are like babies.
Right. Are like babies.
They're like our babies.
They live with us. They go through everyday cycle with us. So we don't like to see if anything is wrong, but unfortunately, that's the hobby, and you have to just pass by the nature.
Negative stuff.
Stuff. But I believe that it's rewarding when you wake up in the morning and you have this beautiful thing to welcome you every morning.
What would be the tip you would give reefers if you were, if they're starting into the hobby or getting...
Beginners, just right on the beginning. Just like with fish, you don't get the most expensive fish, you get damsels on the beginning.
Yes.
Same thing with corals. Get one or two types of cheap coral, let it grow, and make sure use time to cycle the water with the coral. If it dies, unfortunately, you're gonna be disappointed and because your coral died, but you're not gonna be out so much money, and you're not just gonna quit. And after a while, your water is gonna get good, everything is gonna get good, and you can start adding corals
You made a great point. You know, a lot of times people feel like once they added coral to the tank, it's there, right? But I feel like if, you know, you're able to grow it out and get it to a part where you're like, wow, I really feel like I'm doing well. Maybe I could get something a little bit more pricey. I could move up into a more advanced coral section. Don't be scared to pull it out, take it to your local fish store, you know, bring it in, have it become trade value. But you guys have done an absolutely amazing job of taking corals that you had said earlier, you know, they're not the highest end of stuff, they're not the most expensive, but it still looks absolutely amazing. You know, these clove polyps are great up in the back. I'm a huge fan of GSP. I know some people don't like it, but just the way it flows and the motion of it looks beautiful. You have the grandis palithoas up front. You have a bunch of, you know, what people would consider quote unquote beginner corals, but they look amazing in the tank. So I think you guys have done a really great job of doing that. Well, I want to say thank you guys so much for letting me come by, check out the tank, see the system. Obviously you guys are going to see a lot of really up close and tight shots on the tank. We'll showcase all of the corals, get some really good B-roll going. I just want to say thank you so much for letting me come into your home, check out the system. I really want to say thank you to you guys for checking out the video. If you guys have enjoyed this one, I want to say thank you so much. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any future uploads.